Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I thought it was supposed to be morning that everyone was supposed to be asleep. Good evening. Good evening. To get started, I want to go back a couple hours. Back to this morning. Sunday morning. You wake up and you begin to go through your normal routines. You brush your teeth and you go downstairs. Where is your mind? You get breakfast, maybe grab a coffee, and you head out to your car. Where is your mind? You're driving, and then you arrive at the place of meeting. Worship begins, and you begin to participate in the various acts of worship. But where is your mind? You see, many times we fail to ask ourselves this question, and when we do so, our minds can begin to wander. We can begin to get distracted, like the Corinthians. Starting in 1 Corinthians 11, starting in verse 17, Paul begins to address the problems caused by these distractions, the first of which being stated in verse 18. For first of all, when you come together, I hear there are divisions among you. When the Corinthians came together, there were divisions or heresies, referring to the difference of opinions or minds. You see, the Corinthians, they let their minds become distracted from being one in Christ, from being one body, as described in one chapter over in 1 Corinthians 12. You see, problems like these, like divisions, can arise in the church today. And when they do, our faith can be tested. You see, God never said our lives would be easy. He never said our lives as Christians, we would never have trials or persecution. Mark 13:13, and you will be hated by all for my name's sake. But he who endures to the end shall be saved. Paul continues on to say that those among them would be made manifest because of these divisions. Those who among them who are approved will be made manifest. The approved being those who endure the temptations, those who continue in the faith during those trials. Continuing on, Paul switches topics from divisions to the Lord's Supper in verse 20. You see, this verse can be easily misread. When the Corinthians came together, they did partake of the Lord's Supper. But before that, they would have a common meal. Now, the problem began when they would mix the two. See, they blurred the lines between the two, so you could not tell where the common meal ended and where the memorial for Christ's sacrifice began. Not only that, but the rich among them during this time would bring a great deal of food, while the poor would have none. And the result was some of them were left drunk, while others were hungry. You see, the Corinthians had let distractions come into their worship, and the result was divisions in the church and the defilement of the Lord's Supper. Now the question is, how can we keep our minds focused? Verses 27 through 29. Paul outlines the way to stay focused, to help keep our minds from being distracted. But let a man examine himself, and so let him eat of the bread and drink of the cup. Verse 28. And I know that verse is in specific reference to the Lord's Supper, but we can take that idea and apply it to every aspect of worship. But let a man examine himself, and so let him sing, so let him pray, so let him learn. When we examine ourselves, we are to dig within our mind and our hearts and to truly determine as to whether our mind is right, whether we are focused, or whether we're distracted. Many of us struggle with this. I do. But oftentimes we overlook the dangers and the consequences that Paul outlines. Verse 29. The way we conduct ourselves during this time of worship affects our eternity. And I have no doubt in my mind that all of us in this room one day want to hear, "Well done, thy good and faithful servant." So, It's Sunday morning. You wake up and you begin your normal routine. You go downstairs, get breakfast, and you head out to your car. You drive, arrive at the place of meeting, but before worship begins, there's just one question you ask yourself. Where is my mind? It may be that some of you today have not been focused, have been distracted, not only on Sunday mornings, but during the whole entire week, or the past month, or the past year, and so on. You maybe have become distracted from walking with the Lord. If so, come now. There may be some of you out there who have not made that decision to get your focus on the Lord, who have not been baptized. If so, come now. If anyone has any need, come together as we stand and as we sing.